Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Kalaboukis, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation, startups, the future. Not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you'll be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I would greatly appreciate it. What are we talking about today? Failure. Love this one. See, so many people, I mean, you've probably heard it many, many times, that failure leads to innovation. You have to be okay with failure, because if you aren't okay with failure, then you probably never innovate. I mean, look at Thomas Edison. He made 10,000 light bulbs before he invented the current light bulb. It took him 10,000 tries, and somebody said to him, have you failed 10,000 times? No, I found 10,000 ways it won't work. It's the same thing with failure. Although, even though we have this lip service, we have lip service around failure. We say to ourselves, yeah, I am not afraid to fail. I am not afraid to fail. I think failure is good, and I think failure is a lesson. In fact, that's exactly what it is. It isn't really failure. It's education. It's learning from doing something the wrong way. It's doing something incorrectly, but learning from the incorrect way. Did you win or did you learn? You didn't fail. You learned. But sometimes we're afraid to fail. In fact, a lot of times we're afraid to fail. Failure is like the worst thing. I mean, people think, oh my God, I cannot fail. There is no way this thing can fail. But in the failure, you always learn. You always learn in every failure. But it's the same thing. People are afraid to fail. It doesn't matter how often you say, fail early, fail often, and that's how you innovate. It doesn't matter. People don't like to fail. They hate failure, even if they learn from it. So you know what I suggest? Here's something. So I don't know if you guys play video games, but probably a lot of you play video games. And you know how sometimes you're playing a video game and it's like so hard. It's like super, super hard. And you're in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen. And you've tried every possible way of trying to figure your way out of this situation. But there's no way you can figure yourself out of this situation unless you die, unless you kill off your character in some way, right? You sacrifice your character in order to get to the next thing. Sacrificing your character will help you get over that. In some cases, if it's a really poorly designed video game, it's designed exactly for that. It's, let's see how many times I can kill off the character until I figure out, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I need to do this, right? Killing off the character is part of the gameplay. Taking the risk to kill off the character sometimes is what you need to do in order to get to the next stage of the game. They need to figure out this particular part of the puzzle. You have to make yourself fail. You have to force yourself to fail. And once you force yourself to fail, then you learn from the failure. You can see the failure company. You know you're going to die. Your character's going to die. You know it. But in that split second, do you come up with a solution, or do you come up with the next possible path? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Force yourself to fail. Watch what happens. Learn from the failure, and then move on to your next one, and then to your next one, and then to your next one. Keep on failing until you learn and you stop failing. And some of you might say, well, I can't do that. I mean, I've got all my eggs in one basket. I have to fail. So that's why, the biggest problem is people think that you have to have this massive failure to learn. But it's not the case at all. Small failures help you learn too. In fact, the smaller the failure, and this is the key behind a lot of innovation, is that you take mini risks. You take as many mini risks as you can slowly until you can build up to the big risk. Take the mini risk. Don't put all your eggs in the basket, on the risk basket, and keep going until you've learned and pivoted and figured out where to go next. You figured out how to innovate, how to fail to innovate, how to fail to learn. So I leave you with this one last thing. Failure is not failure. Failure is not bad. Failure is not negative. Failure is education. I mean, can you imagine? Instead of saying I failed, you say I learned. If every failure you've ever had in your life was actually a lesson, you'd probably be a lot more educated than you feel that you are right now. Think of failure as a lesson. You learn every time you fail. Every time you fail, you learn. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.